when you have realized that ultimate truth, when you have understood that you are not something that special, then what happens is that you are able to stand up against corruption and falsehood, because you are no longer worried about your own self. You're not worried about your priority, because you realize that we're all born to die. So that fearlessness comes up, and here we see Guru Nanak Dev Ji roaring like a lion. And it turns out, if we met Guru Nanak Dev Ji, he may have some harsh words to tell us that we may not want to hear. And again, it's very easy for us to listen to Asa Di Vaar and look at it proudly and say, look at Guru Nanak Dev Ji telling off all these people. But really, Guru Nanak Dev Ji is speaking to us. Here, Guruji is looking at all the ego-based corruption. He talks about corrupt religious leaders who steal money, and by doing so, they are dishonoring their family and their ancestors. He talks about the difference between virtues and corruption, inequalities and purity. So here he's trying to make us really aware that there are two ways of living. The corrupt way, the one that practices inequality, injustice, cruelty to others, versus a way that is full of virtues and a sense of purity, understanding the truth. But all of this is only being dealt with through the lens of permanence or impermanence. If you are within your impermanent self, if you understand yourself to be impermanent, you will treat everyone with kindness. If you think that you are permanent, you will treat yourself with kindness first. So Guruji mentions the famous verses, which today we say is that Guru Nanak was a champion of women's rights. He says specifically about this idea of impurity. Women's menstruation is not impurity. The impurity is the lies that you say from your mouth. It's easy to judge someone else. It's easy to look at one community and say you're doing something wrong. But Guruji is saying is, what are you saying wrong at every moment? It's easy to look down on someone and say, you're not eating the right things, I only eat in a pure way. Guruji say it's impossible for you to eat in a pure way. Everything contains life. It's impossible for you to be a vegetarian. Everything contains bacteria. So Guruji is starting to really wake us up. Your water is contaminated. Your food is contaminated. Your kitchen is contaminated in some way or another. But even if you manage to clean everything else, pure food entering into a contaminated mouth of the person who speaks lies, who speaks in ego, where is the purity of that food gone when you drop it into the pit of impurity, which is yourself? And the only real purity is that person who remembers this truth, and Guruji calls that Naam. No washing away of your body is going to get rid of these impurities. Only washing of your understanding through jnana, through spiritual wisdom, is going to get rid of this. And Guruji really brings this message home. Impurity in the mind, we have this in the form of greed. So wearing nice clothes and clean clothes to the darbar doesn't make any difference if you're coming to the darbar with greed in your mind. What is the point of you waking up in the morning and saying, I've had a bath? When pariye mat papa ke sang, o to pehna ve ke rang. You haven't done that. You can wear easily nice clothes and you can clean your body and you can pretend to be pure on the outside. But Guruji says, I can see your mind, and that is the worst. That is the filthiest thing that you are bringing here. Your tongue is impure when you speak in falsehood, when you speak lies of others. Your eyes are impure when they lust over someone else. Your ears are impure when you hear gossip and negative talk about someone else. And your life is doomed when you're deluding yourself that you're religious. You have forgotten your own death. You have forgotten your own mortality. And because of that, you think you are so special. You walk around like there is something special about you. And there isn't. There's nothing special about any of us. So, Sucha isn't a person who washes their body. Suche se inanika, jirman basya soye. Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, only the person who has that divine truth, that idea that I do not exist, all that exists is the universe through me, that is the person who has purity in their mind. They're the only ones who can say that I don't have any impurities. So Guruji goes and highlights all of these different people. The ones who indulge in excessive pleasures. And it's again important for us to reflect, what are we doing today? Today, there are Amritaris walking around in exactly the same way. They look great on the outside, but they carry so much filth, hatred and ego on the inside. We see these people running our gurdwaras and we do nothing about it. We know a lot of people go to the gurdwara and they feel inferior. They feel like people are judging them. Women are being judged because they don't have a dasar on their head. Men are being judged if they're walking around with cut hair. They are feeling unwelcome in Guru Nanak's house. You know, it's very easy for us to look at shabads like Pandit about women's rights, and we say, look, Guru Nanak was a champion of women's rights. Look how great Guru Nanak was. But remember, Guru Nanak Dev Ji at the time was saying something which the normal people did not agree with. It wasn't easy for him to stand there and talk about women's rights. Today we can say, look how great it is, because we understand women are equal. But he was saying it at a time when women weren't considered equal. And today we do the same thing. Today there is so much hatred against people we don't understand. We don't understand the gay community and we judge them. And I would be sitting here trying to say that everyone should be treating them equally, and most of you might be thinking, this guy is talking about homosexuals. What a horrible thing to say. But Guru Nanak Dev Ji was talking about the women's menstruation cycle. Those weren't easy conversations to have. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji roared like a lion, and we too must roar like lions and stand up against injustice where injustice is being done. Today, women are still not allowed to do kirtan in Darbar Sahib. We don't even have Guru Nanak Dev Ji's principles in our highest of places. So what are we doing waking up every morning singing Asa Di Vaar? We are convincing ourselves that we're doing something good. You might be thinking, but I'm not a bad person. I believe in equality for all. I don't do anything wrong. I'm not one of these people that needs to change my life. Guru Nanak Dev Ji gives you a rule to check whether you are one of the people that he's talking to or not. Manda kise na akhiye, pad akhar eho bujhiye. Do not call anyone bad. Read these words and understand. If you ever say to anyone or behind anyone's back You gossip about them, talk about how bad they are. Guru Nanak Dev Ji has a message for you. You are doing something wrong. And he says, Moorkh hai naal na luchiye. We are the fools if we are doing that. He's not telling you, don't hang around with those people. He's telling other people, don't hang around with you. Don't even have friends with anyone who speaks in this way. Look at the benchmark that Guru sets for us. Don't speak bad of anyone in any way, and if you know anyone who does that, do not associate with them. Guru Nanak is setting the bar very high, and we all fall short of that bar. We are all people who need to learn from this message. So you can't think that you are religious if you are unkind to anyone. Simple. You cannot think that you are religious if you keep coming to the divine and saying, I want these things in my life and I don't want these things in my life. Guruji points that out to you as well. What kind of person says they love God but only loves God 50% of the time? When God gives you good stuff. When God takes something away from you, then you say, this is not right. This is not what's supposed to happen. You can't call yourself religious if you love God 50% of the time. So in the final verse, Guruji summarizes that the only way that you can escape is to realize that nothing is being done outside of the divine hukam. All these people that you think are good and bad, they're all being done by hukam. Everything is in hukam. Hukam hai andar sab ko, bahar hukam na koye. Stop saying those words every day if you're not going to understand it. That's Guru Nanak Dev Ji's harsh message to you. So what we're doing today is that we are getting very, very comfortable with reciting these things. And it seems that we haven't even taken the time to understand what does Asa Di Vaar mean. Half the reason why we don't understand Asa Di Vaar is because the way we sing Asa Di Vaar has been manipulated. Asa Di Vaar is saloks of Guru Nanak, salok bhi main pehle ke likhe. Pauris and sloks of Guru Nanak. And it seems that somehow, somewhere down the line, someone thought it was a good idea to take Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Asa Di Vaar and break it up and throw in verses of Guru Ram Das Ji. The way that everyone has learned Asa Di Vaar is not the way it's written in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Why are we doing this? You think, well, this is what everyone's doing. Every single recording of Asa Di Vaar all over the world, in every Gurdwara, is being done in this way. But if you go and do your research, in the old handwritten Granths, wherever Gurbani was being written, the Pothis they would call them, Asa Di Vaar was written exactly as it appears in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. And it seems to be a late tradition, possibly when the Amrit Kirtan was invented, that someone thought it was a good idea to take Asa Di Vaar and break it up and throw in all of Guru Ram Das Ji's verses. And by doing that, you'll notice the flow completely changes. Guru Nanak Dev Ji gives you a harsh message, and then all of a sudden something completely irrelevant is being thrown in. And you might think, well, it's all Bani. Surely it's good to just listen to Gurbani. Would you do the same to Japji Sahib? Would you read verses of Japji Sahib where after every verse an Anand Sahib verse is thrown in? Would you say that makes sense? It wouldn't make sense. So you have to start reading Bani and understanding Bani. Otherwise we're blindly all doing it. Now I could be completely wrong, but only when you start reading the meaning do you say these meanings are being corrupted. When you read Asa Di Vaar, it has a lot of meaning. When you throw in the verses of Guru Ram Das Ji, which I may be wrong, I don't think that these were started by the Guru. It seems that it was a late tradition. It seems that as the Guru wanted it, That's how Guru recorded it in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Something has changed over time. My beinti is, go and do some research. Find out when this started. It feels like your body is being manipulated, so that you don't take this message. So that you blindly carry on reading it and singing it and making yourself feel better, and you don't actually understand that the Guru is trying to teach you something. Our body is being changed and we're not doing anything about it. So Guruji ends by saying, it's okay. Understand that even this is in hukam. Everything is being done in hukam. The question is, what will your hukam be today? What will you do to change the world so that they understand how brave Guru Nanak was to stand up against the norm and against the people? We are the children of Guru Nanak, and we must learn Guru Nanak was a rebel. And if Guru Nanak was a rebel, then we are the children of that rebel Guru. And it is up to us to read Asa Di Vaar, understand it, and use that to help make the world a better place. So I ask for forgiveness if I've said anything to offend, and I ask for forgiveness from my Guru, and I thank the Guru and the Sangat for giving me the opportunity to sit before you and reflect on the beauty of our Guru's message.